Hey everyone, Karnak here with Star Wars Armada Explained. Today we're going to look at an Imperial title for the Victory Star Destroyer. It's the Dominator title. Dominator, how can you tell if it's for Victory class Star Destroyers? Well, besides the fact there's a picture of one on the card. Bottom left hand corner of the card shows the VSD icon. This is faction specific for Imperials, which you can see there next to its point cost, which is a whopping 12 points for this card. Pretty expensive. Dominator is unique. You can see there by the bullet point in front of its name, and you can only bring one of these in your fleet. The card reads, while attacking at close medium range, or close to medium range, excuse me, you may spend up to 2 shields from any of your hull zones to add that number of blue die to your attack pool. This card does have one clarification. It reads, if the ship spends 2 shields, it may take both from the same hull zone or one from each of 2 different hull zones. So the initial reading of the card, people thought that, was like if you landed on a debris field, you had to choose one hull zone and you can only suffer damage to the shields of that hull zone, period. They released a clarification saying, well, no, that was not our intent with the card. You can pull those 2 shields from anywhere you want. Whether it's from the same hull zone or from the front or left or right or what have you. So let's read the timing of the card. So the first thing about this card is it's when you're attacking. So this card effect takes place after you roll your initial die pool. So remember, you always gather your initial die pool, check for any obstruction, remove any die if there is obstruction or not, and then if you do have cards that add to your battery armament, that can be rolled to your initial pool. But for the vast majority of cards and upgrades in the game, it's stuff that affects your die pool after you make your initial attack. So in this example, we'll say this is a VSD2. It throws 3 red die and 3 blue die out the front that I will use in this example. So it's while attacking. So the first thing you need to do is check to make sure you're in range to be able to use this card. Now remember, it does have a restriction. It only can be used at close to medium range. So close range is this black circle here. Medium range is the blue circle. Long range is the red circle. So even though you can make an attack out to long range at the front with the 3 red die, you can't trigger the ability of this card because, again, it specifically states you can only use it at close to medium. So in this situation, we'll say we can make an attack out at medium range. Again, remember, make sure you are measuring for line of sight. Make sure it's clear that there's no obstruction and that you can actually see the whole zone that you're trying to shoot or the target you're trying to shoot. And make sure it's in arc and range and all of that. And then you gather. And so this example will say there's no obstruction. There's no other crazy things going on. We're going to roll our 3 reds and our 3 blues. So it's while attacking. We're at medium range. We rolled our initial attack pool. Now we can spend up to 2 shields from any of our hull zones to add that number of blue die to your attack pool. So this is already pretty decent enough roll, and maybe you've locked something's brace. You can pour some damage in. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and spend a shield off my left and my right, and I'm going to add 1 and 2 blue die into that attack pool. Now, you don't have to do 2. You can do just 1. Or you don't have to do anything. Maybe your initial attack pool is going to be sufficient. But it's when you're attacking, you can decide if you want to do 1 or 2. As long as you don't then move on to that step to something else. Remember, you can only resolve a card's ability once. So if you did add 1 blue die and you did something like leading shots, you couldn't go back and add in after that another blue die. You can only, again, timing wise, resolve a card's effect once. And so that is, for all intents and purposes, it's Dominator. Now, one thing I do want to note about Dominator is that it doesn't have a restriction on what you can use this ability on in terms of is for ships or squadrons. It's just while attacking. So a lot of players will use this card when attacking squadrons because a VSD only throws the 1 blue die for anti-squad. So maybe you rolled a die and maybe it was a hit. Maybe you already rolled that accuracy against a scatter race. When, hey, if I already rolled, let's say, that accuracy, Maybe I want a Dominator and add in some more die to try to get some damage onto that target, which is viable. But again, if you're sacrificing shields for increased attack power, especially on VSDs, which are just, I mean, ultimately they are fairly fragile because of their slow movement and slow turning capability. They don't have a contain, they don't have a defensive retrofit slot, so you're spending your valuable defense on offense, and that's definitely a fine line that you have to walk. But I definitely have seen some players roll up of Dominator on a huge squad ball and then go to town on all those squads. And he may have lost all of his shields on his victory, but maybe he wiped out all the squads in that squad ball, and that tactically could be worth it for you. Ultimately, Dominator suffers from being created early on in the stage of Armada, and it's just really overpriced for what it gives, especially on a ship that's as fragile as a VSD. There is no other crazy interactions or anything else going on that needs to be brought up or that you need to be aware of. Obviously, you can use those blue die to be used for, like leading shots. They can be evaded. Just remember, you have to resolve the effect of one card before moving on to the next. So, of course, if you feel like anything's an error or if I got anything wrong, please be sure to point it out. Let me know. I always respond to my comments. I appreciate you all watching my videos, and I'll catch you next time.